This paper was presented at the JCT Traffic Signals Symposium 2023 in Nottingham, thanks to the support of AGD Systems, INRIX, Message Maker Displays, PTV Group, Simplify Systems, Smart Micro UK and TRL Software.
So what I'm going to present to you today is the dissertation that I did as part of my MBA research. So the reason why I'm going to present it is because there's a lot of people in this room that have helped me with it, so I just wanted to kind of give back and to kind of highlight the recommendations that I've got from it. The dissertation that I did as part of my MBA studies was, the research question that I chose was identify how to effectively plan and manage intelligent transport system assets to enable innovation. So due to the limited time, I'm obviously not able to present all of it. And I just wanted to pull from it the recommendations that would be useful for you. And I will caveat that it's heavily biased to my own opinion, with a bit of research thrown in there as well. So just take what you want with that. And due to being a lone researcher, it probably would have been a lot more rounded if I would have had more researchers helping with it. Okay, so the aim of the project. Why did I pick that subject? So from collaborating at industry events such as these, speaking to colleagues, it was very evident that there was lots of similarities of issues that we were facing in the industry. So it was maintaining assets and not enough innovation going on. So to be able to answer this question, I identified 3 objectives. So the first one was programme asset management effectively. The second, increase innovation opportunities. The third, develop SEC as a leading industry innovator. So within the research, I did literature review. I did extensive reading around the subject, and I found a gap where looking at effective asset management and how you can innovate within that as well. So the literature review also helped me identify that I needed to use mixed research methods. So I chose to do questionnaires and interviews. And the questionnaires enabled me to get that more quantitative information. So it enabled me to dig a little bit deeper in the interviews to get that more qualitative information. So I interviewed 13 participants. Many of those are in this room, so thank you very much for your time. I wanted to be able to have a diverse selection of people, so I managed to get people from rural authorities and city authorities as well as national, and I also interviewed private consultants as well, and they range from innovation leads all the way through to asset maintainers. So I was going to present the questionnaire findings, but I felt like the information within that wasn't kind of, it didn't correlate, to the recommendations that I want to present to you today, and I probably won't have enough time. Okay, so moving on to the interviews. I started off with an introductory question, just to kind of get a feel for what people's issues were. And as you can see from the graph, the resource was the biggest issue for most of the participants. If you look at that in detail though, so that's split into, you probably can't see it that well there, but it's split into subgroups. So the greys representing rural authorities. So it was a bigger issue for resource for rural authorities, whereas it was a bigger issue for funding for city councils. So when I come to analyse this, I used thematic analysis, so I pulled some themes from the research, and I identified 3 themes for each objective. So I'm just going to go through those now. So the first objective was programme asset management effectively, and the first theme within that was obsolescence. So you'll just see I've put some quotes up from the interviews that I did. So the interviews found that the cause of obsolescence was due to fast-paced changing technologies. One participant shared that, that obsolescence didn't help them when they changed contractors and having to collaborate with the previous contractor to get spares. So that was an issue identified. And the literature found that obsolescence should be thought about in the initial planning and design stages, which will reduce obsolescence in the future. So finance, the interviews found various issues with finance, as you can probably appreciate. So budgets wouldn't stretch because of the high number of assets that they're maintaining. Allocation budget priorities was an issue as well, so within organisation as a wider organisation and as well as within the department, so competing with the likes of potholes or even social care. There wasn't enough funding opportunities available, and when there were those opportunities available, participants felt that there was no support there to be able to apply for them internally as well. So to aid the lack of funding, participants expressed that they were trying to do things to kind of stretch their budget. So this ranged from like innovating to reduce costs, using new development funding to improve the assets, and doing contract amendments as well. So small things like changing contractual times, and then others are like merging contracts with other authorities. And there was one extreme of one authority turning their UTMC system off. And for finance, the literature identified that authorities should have a greater capital budget, which will enable more effective design, which will then enable reduced revenue budgets in the future. Another piece of literature that I found was the National Traffic Signal Report Card, which is a report that's done in America. The Federal Highways Agency have led on that, and it's basically just to improve traffic signal operations, and it's to help them find out what authorities need, so like from training or guidance or finances. And then the third theme within this objective was programming techniques. So I found that 82% of the participants were still using traditional spreadsheets to be able to calculate their asset condition. And from this, they were then finding their asset their recycling programs. We all know the huge benefits of ImTrack. Peter's not asked me to say that. However, I was quite surprised that few of the participants were using it to its full advantage. And the literature did find that software tools are a lot more accurate, so you can look at your priorities within that. And then just talking about programs for asset replacement cyclic targets, there was a huge difference. So some were meeting the 15-year cyclic, and others were looking at more 30 years, and one even said 70 years. So it's no wonder that obsolescence is a huge issue. So objective 2, to increase innovation opportunities. So the first one was innovation support. So I identified that innovation was essential, which was not surprising, and the literature has supported this. Most authorities are doing smaller innovations, a few are doing like larger scale ones, and I can only imagine that's just due to lower risks. So 75% of the participants felt supported by their senior leadership teams regarding innovation. However, they felt that more support was needed from them. And the literature identified that innovation maximises budgets. So the next theme was policies. So innovators need support from lots of people, I suppose, due to strict policy requirements such as council procurement rules and topaz registration. And I can imagine there's many other barriers for them too. So this delays and hinders implementation, and I suppose that's just due to the perceived risks. So some participants identified that they were already helping innovators through this process. And yeah, there's vast literature out there just kind of concurring with that, saying that innovation is limited, especially in public sectors. due to the 6 strict rules. However, we have got to remember that, these rules are there for the safety of the highway. And then the third theme was specific resource. So few authorities that few of the participants that I interviewed were innovation leads, and the others that weren't innovation leads said that they didn't have innovation leads within their authorities. So the 2 participants that I interviewed were both from city councils, and they have fully funded roles as well. So there was a comment made in one of my interviews that said you need to be the right authority to be able to lead on innovation. However, I think that's left open for debate, especially because I found that not all innovation is shared in the industry. So innovation leads are getting that competitive advantage against other authorities. The literature also found that the UK is limited to research and development in comparison to other countries. So objective 3, to develop Staffordshire County Council as a leading industry innovator. So the first 2 themes were resource and skills. So resource constraints and skills shortages were found to be the major barriers with asset management. And the literature provided that there's a battle between the public and the private sector for competing skilled resource. Private sectors are known to have higher salaries and additional bonuses. The interviews actually supported this as well. So one participant actually preferred working for the public sector despite lack of resource and job enjoyment. And then others said that there was retention concerns due to stretched workloads. So lack of skills, authorities are actually buying in that skill now, so they're actually paying for that skills because there's a shortage, which is obviously going to stretch budgets even further. And historically, there hasn't been a lot of training in the industry, but I know that's now improving and there is more training available, which leads me on to the third theme of training. So training was mostly accessible by the participants, although there was challenges of time, cost and interest. It was highlighted several times actually that collaborative working was an additional training, and it was a free bit of training for them, which was quite nice to hear. So the recommendations, this is the main bit really. So just to summarise what I've gone over. So within asset management, obsolescence found that by improving skills and training enables effective design to reduce obsolescence. And the DFT and the industry need to be able to improve contractor collaboration to be able to limit obsolescence to enable cost-effective asset management. Too quick. So finances found that authorities need to be able to increase capital budgets, and which will lower the revenue budgets. And authorities need to look at internal reporting as well, and compare teams to see the most in need, and so that there's a fair allocation across the department. And then another thing that authorities can look at for finances is adjusting and joining contracts as well. And then the final thing within asset management is programming techniques. So as the literature identified, that detailed software tools are way better, enabling you to see the full visibility of the condition of your assets, which will improve your programming. Okay, so within innovation, innovation support needs to be recognised by the DFT and your own senior leadership teams as well. This will drive innovation. Otherwise, if we don't drive innovation, we're going to fall behind. And we need to continue those smaller innovations now to be able to reduce and improve the assets in the future. So authorities and industry policies need to be improved so that it's an easier process for approval for innovators. and specified innovation resource is beneficial. However, it's not always applicable, especially in smaller authorities. But I really feel that as an industry, we need to kind of share that learning. Otherwise, authorities aren't going to learn. And, you know, but by this happening now, it's going to increase innovation in the future. And then finally, so within competitive advantage, so resource found that authorities need to ensure they have the adequate staff, resourcing, and also the grading of those roles as well. And the external funding can alleviate the budget concerns for this as well. And then next, authorities need to support staff training where possible as well. So this will enable their teams to be able to implement more innovation. And then just another point on training, although the training has improved in the industry, it would be good to see apprenticeships in the future. So another thing for authorities to think about, to be able to retain their staff, opportunities for progression and development are needed. And then lastly is the National Traffic Signal Report Card. I would find that this would be a really huge benefit to authorities and the DFT to be able to identify those resource skills and training needs, which will further support us. So closing remarks. So what have we done? What have I done so far? Since completing the research, I've focused on recruitment, just because our resource has been really, really limited. So I've provided some evidence to our senior leadership team. So I've worked with our Midlands Highways Alliance group on a benchmarking exercise as evidence to kind of identify that it's looking at like assessing assets against resource. So this is being progressed, and I'm hoping that that will be approved. And I've also highlighted to them that these additional roles can be supported by additional funding to alleviate those pressures. And once recruited, I'll be able to implement these recommendations further. And then for a final conclusion, so through conducting this research, I've gained a broader understanding of the underlying causes behind poor asset management. So initially I attributed it to limited resource and funding. However, I've now identified other factors that can contribute to improving asset management without the need for additional funding. While authorities are currently grappling with financial constraints, I believe that providing the right support and ensuring effective programme management through innovative approaches can enhance asset maintenance and prolong their life cycles. And by implementing the internal recommendations at Staffordshire and considering all other identified mitigations, we can optimise our finances and maintain assets to the prescribed standard. Adopting the external recommendations will not only support authorities but also enhance all traffic signal assets across the UK. So while the research focused on ITS, the findings could also be applicable to other highway assets in the future.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Emily. That was a really insightful bit of analysis. And I think if there's people in, I mean, we talk a lot about how to achieve chartered status. Talked about that for a long time. Now we're talking about, apprenticeship or graduate, which is the best way into the sector. But if Emily sparked any of you to think that, hey, I could actually do an MBA based on my day job, then that would be a good thing. And I'm sure you'd be happy to give some little bit of hints and advice.
It wasn't easy. I'll say that.
Well, it's better to tell people the truth, isn't it? But
definitely.
That was really good, and thanks also to JCT for including it, because it's a little bit different presentation. So, do we have some questions for Emily? No, you've stunned them, yeah. Well, I won't bother with a sort of pointless moderator question. I just want you to know that I really enjoyed that presentation, and I'm sure the audience did as well. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.